Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our first roundtable session. We're excited to kick this off. I think it's going to be a great way for members to get some more information and interact with each other. Our first roundtable is going to be about developing a winning workforce. Everybody that I talk to in the industry has some struggle around workforce for sure. So we thought that this was a really important topic to discuss and give you some guidance, and then have an opportunity to sit together and share your thoughts and discuss what's working well for you, what's not working, etc. So the day is basically going to be, or this next hour, Thomas is going to do a presentation. His presentation will last about 20 to 25 minutes. Throughout the presentation, if you have questions or need anything, please do use the chat box. We'll be looking at that to help answer those questions. And after his presentation, then we will all go back to the lounge. You've been given some seat assignments. So if you'll find your table and sit at that table, we'll sit at that table for about 10 minutes and have some conversation. And then after 10 minutes, we'll rotate. So you'll each have an opportunity to sit with Thomas and some of the other moderators at the tables. If you need help throughout that, again, put something in the chat area and we'll try to get you any information that you need. So I'm going to introduce Thomas and turn it over to him. Thomas Allett is a Learning and Development Manager with Stiles University. He has a career background that began in the automotive manufacturing industry, and then he transitioned to the woodworking sector about 6 years ago when he came on board with Stiles University in 2015. He currently leads a team of 9 learning and development professionals who are responsible for training and development of employees within the secondary woodworking industry. He also works alongside executive leadership to create and execute learning paths for North American employees. He's uniquely qualified in his field, and he sits on 5 industry boards focused on upskilling the next generation of woodworkers, which we need, so that's great. 40,000 plus students have graduated through the Stiles University course. So I will turn it over to you.
Perfect. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're in the country. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your first roundtable. I'm excited to be here. As Amy explained, my name is Thomas Allett, and I am the manager of Stiles University. We focus in the development of not only our customers' employees, but also our own employees. Today, I'm going to be taking you through a little bit of a journey of kind of developing a winning workforce, and what we've found in best practices, whether it's working within our own organization or our customers' organizations, to make sure that that workforce is not only there, but is sustainable. I'm used to presenting in public. I'm standing right now because I move around a lot and use my hands a lot. And one thing I love to do when I'm presenting in public is get engagement with the audience. I do see the chat panel open on my computer right now, so I'll have some questions. Feel free to put the answers to the questions in the chat, and we can make this as interactive as possible during this very strange COVID time. So let's get started. So let me start off by asking a question. Do you currently, or maybe in the future, have unfilled or unskilled positions within your organizations? If I were to take a guess and we were in public, I would say probably 60 to 70% of you are raising your hands right now and saying, yes, I do, please help me. Well, why do we have those positions, right? Why are they not filled, or why are they underskilled? The number one problem, in my opinion, is that we have a perception problem, right? We have a perception problem that the manufacturing of today is the same manufacturing that our grandfathers used to go through 60 years ago, right? This is what people see when they think of woodworking manufacturing. They see a dirty, dingy, low technology environment, when in reality, majority of our facilities look like this. We've got state-of-the-art equipment. We've got high capability production, and it's a pretty clean environment. So when we dive into those misperceptions, as I said, your grandfather's manufacturing, very low technology, hand tools, planers, things like that. It's dirty, it's grimy. They expect to see people covered in dirt and coal dust, and this is the vision they get when they think of manufacturing. It's bad and it's non-sustainable for the environment. We've learned that this is not true. And lastly, it's a job. It's not a career. People tend to think that going into a manufacturing position is a stopgap for their next step. We know that's not true. We know we've got good jobs within our industry that are career jobs, not just stopgap jobs. So because of these misperceptions, the issue that we're having is that we're losing good and talented workers. Well, let's explore a little bit where we're losing them. We're losing them into the medical field, high-paying jobs, good careers, attractive environment. We're losing them into the sciences, whether it be research sciences or medical sciences or whatever it might be. Once again, high-paying jobs, good environments, careers. If they are going into manufacturing, we're losing them to the automotive manufacturing sector. Because once again, the perception of that is it's a good paying job, clean environment, it's a career. And last but not least, we're losing them to the technology sector, whether it be to the techie companies like Facebook or Snapchat or whoever that may be. Once again, the perception of that industry is that it's got good paying jobs, good work environments, and it's a career. So how does this have an effect on you? Let me ask you a question. Are you planning to expanding your business in the next 2 to 3 years? Or are you currently seeing expansion like a lot of our partners in the industry are because of COVID? With that, are you planning to grow your workforce in 2 to 3 years? Well, Deloitte did a study and showed that 50% of manufacturers are ready to expand and ready to grow their business, but don't have enough or the correct workforce in order to do so. So what does this mean? Because you don't have the right skilled people, because you don't have enough people, the Manufacturing Institute says that there's a 12% increase in overtime because of this, and then 8% increase in cycle time because of this, and then a 10% increase in downtime because of this. That's an 11% national average among these three categories. And you're probably saying, okay, well, how does this correlate? Well, why are we all in business? Money, money, money. We're leaving money on the table. We're losing revenue because we're not having the right people in the right place to do these jobs. So what I want to do now is get away from the doom and gloom and start giving you guys some tools that'll allow you to set up some structure in your businesses. I would say 95% of this is cost-free to make sure that you have the right people in the right positions when it comes to hiring, retaining, and training people. So this 4-step program. First, we're going to talk about identity. How do people view us? We talked about perception when we first started. How do we change that? How do we start changing the mindset of people looking at the woodworking industry as a career? The second is quality. What type of person are we hiring to fill these jobs? Third is that education piece, right? How are you educating? How are you training? How are you upskilling the people that you're hiring? And lastly, empowerment. We want to make sure that we're not only educating the right people, but that we're empowering them to do their job and make the decisions that we hired them to do. So let's start with identity. One of the big factors, as I talked about earlier, was the perception of our industry, and the perception being that it's a dirty, grimy job. We need to make sure that we're investing into our shops with technology, which I'm sure majority of you are, but then also cleanliness and work environment, right? Do you have natural lighting within your work facility? If you look at the images, there's these skylights. Oops. There's skylights up at the top by the LED lights. There's bright LED lights running through. The floors are clean. Everything is organized. It looks like a welcome place to work. The technology. Are you investing in that technology so that the people are excited to come to work to play with this technology and to learn all this technology? But the identity doesn't stop there. The identity also transfers into our office jobs. We're businesses. We're running day in, day out. We need to hire the best talent to help us do our marketing, to help us do our sales, to help us do our accounting. So when we interview people, we want them to see that the place that we're hiring them to work is a warm and welcoming environment. Making investments in things such as laptops versus desktop computers, open floor plans, renovated carpets and paint and things like that. Those are a step forward in getting the right people into the right seats with that good quality talent, filling careers in the woodworking industry. How many people are familiar with this drawing right here? This drawing was in 1490 by Leonardo da Vinci, and it's called the Drawing of the Vitruvian Man. Let me introduce you to the 2021 version. This is the 2021 social media created drawing of the modern person. As you'll notice, they're looking directly at their cell phone. I would take a guess of majority of the people in the audience right now, 95% of you, if not 99% of you, have one of these wonderful devices. These wonderful devices connect us, right? They allow me to look what's going on in Europe, in Asia, in different parts of the country. I can get instant information and make a judgment based off of a company or a product instantly. So what we need to do is start to worry about and think about our social presence. Do you have an updated website? When that person goes to apply for that job, do they have a good experience through that social platform? Do you have an Instagram, a Facebook, a LinkedIn page? Things like that is going to make a huge impact when they have that first social media or social presence when applying for a job at your facility. This is something that you can do cost-free. Spend some time in building these pages so that that first impression is the best impression that they have. The next topic I want to talk about is quality. How to find the right people. And I want to specifically talk about 3 different types of people. First being the young generation that's coming up next. Second being women in woodworking. And third, but not last, the military veterans that we need to bring into our industry. So let's start with the youth. This is a current snapshot of the 2020-2021 US labor workforce by generation. So I'm sure you're familiar with some of these terms. You have silents, which are born 1927 to 1944 or 1945. Boomers, which are born 1946 to 1964. Gen Xers, which are born 1965 to 1980. And then those darn millennials, born 1981 to 1995. Well, currently, the millennial group make up about 35% of our US labor workforce. Gen Xers are about 34%, boomers are 29%, and our silents are at that 2%. Well, let's fast forward to 2030. In 2030, we're going to see a huge change. Almost 90% of the millennials will be in our workforce at this point. If you look at this breakdown, our silents are less than 1%. Our boomers are around 5% of the workforce. Our Gen Xers are around 15% as they're getting ready to retire. And our millennials are taking up 75% of the workforce in 2030. We also see a new generation come through called the Gen Zers or the Alpha generation. People are scared of millennials. Wait till the Gen Z people get here. We need to make these adjustments to accommodate for these individuals. Millennials, myself included, have grown up with technology. We've grown up with a work-life balance. We're expecting these things when we come into a workplace, that it's not a nice to have, it's a need to have. I need to have a cell phone. I need to have a laptop. I need to be able to be flexible within my workday to get my work done. So by 2030, we are going to need to make sure that our businesses are ready for these individuals. Well, how can we start to get them into our workplaces? Let's start with internships or apprenticeships. Normally, I would ask for a raise of hands if is there anyone here doing apprenticeships or internships, but if you are, please leave it in the comment, because it's a great way for an introduction into our industry. LinkedIn did a study, and they showed that 52% of interns that take a position within a company will turn into a full-time employee if it is a complete paid internship. Now, that might sound expensive, but think about this. If you have that intern that's going to turn into a full-time employee, you're going to have a reduction in onboarding process, a reduction in recruiting costs, and a reduction in that training and vetting process. So you're saving costs by paying an intern to work part-time for you. So how can we engage these interns? Where do we find them? Your role as a company means that you need to get in touch with your local schools. Partner with your local ISDs. Partner with local community colleges or universities to find these individuals that may be looking for that alternate route, and bring them into the woodworking manufacturing industry. Open up your facility for Manufacturing Day. For those of you who don't know what Manufacturing Day, it is on the first Friday every single year, and it's a national holiday, if you will, where we are encouraged to allow high school students, middle school students to come into our facilities and see what manufacturing is all about. Over the past 5 years, we've probably had around 600 students come through our facilities. And we've hired about 3 people in our manufacturing facility down the road, specifically from those experiences. If you partner with your local schools and universities, they will help you line this up. They will help line the classes up and with the counselors and the teachers to make sure that we're filling your manufacturing facilities and kids are getting the chance to see the technology and the chance of a career within your industry. I want to show a quick video real quick of what we did. This was about 2 years ago for our Manufacturing Day. So we brought in, as you could see, bus loads of students into our 2 facilities. We took them into our machine facility where we build and assemble all of our machines. Took them around, showed them what lean manufacturing was, what just-in-time manufacturing was, and explained the different concepts and different career options within a manufacturing facility. And then we took them back to Styles University to show them what these machines do. To say, look, you could be a designer, you could be an interior designer, you could be a machine operator, a maintenance technician. They got to get hands-on experience with running these machines and understanding what they actually do. So as you can see, we made a, I believe that's a Fender-shaped guitar. They were engraved with the students' teachers' names and classroom names on the guitars. We had a few snacks. One of our employees played a guitar for everyone and kept everything light. And to be honest, we probably had a better time than the students did. We got a real good excitement out of it by sharing what we do with those students. So the next group of people that I would love to talk about is bringing women into manufacturing. And we need to bring and make sure that the careers in our industry are accessible to females, because females make up 47% of the total US labor force, but only 29% of the manufacturing labor force. And if you ask any female that's in the manufacturing industry, they're going to say that 2/3 of them will say that they would do it all over again because they've got a long career and a sustainable career. So what can you do as a company to attract more women into your business? The first thing, evaluate your unconscious biases. Um, that's why I highlight unconscious. We know that you're not trying to say this is a woman's job or this is a man's job, but we really need to deep dive, look into our job descriptions and our postings to make sure that we're opening it up to whoever wants to apply for the position. If you have women within your company, consider a role of sponsorships or mentorships. Put those women in the front lines to show these young women coming in from the next generation that, hey, I'm making a sustainable living within the manufacturing industry, and it's not a man's job. Tied in with that is if you have female leaders, get them out in the public, right? Get them out to the schools, get them out to the job fairs, because another woman in a manufacturing setting than she is a man in a manufacturing setting. We relate to people that we can relate with. And lastly, what is going to retain a woman? If you look at the items listed, it's everything that will retain a man, right? We all want challenging and interesting assignments. We all want attractive pay. And lastly, we all want that work-life balance. The last group of individuals I want to talk about, Styles has seen a giant success, especially with this group of people for hiring and retaining them, and that is our military. We focus on hiring when we're looking for technicians or Styles University instructors. We focus on military outreaches, and these are the reasons why. They're the best trained workforce. They have the most structure, and they go through the most rigorous training during their time in the military. Leadership, teamwork, and critical thinking is instilled in them since day one in boot camp. And lastly, they perform well under pressure. So if you're trying to meet those tough deadlines, they've been through it before, right? They perform very, very well. Lastly, and probably the most important part, is that we have between 240 and 360,000 veterans leaving the U.S. military each year. I would probably put about 60% of them don't know what they're going to do next. So we have to make sure we're supporting them in their next transition from that military to civilian life. So what can you do as a company? Review your application process to remove barriers. Same as when we were talking about finding more females to bring them into the manufacturing industry, we need to do the same with the military. If someone were to look at a job resume and it says woodworking experience needed or CNC machine experience needed, we need to start removing those and making them as general as possible to see if we can get people to translate skills. Find those similarities in positions that compare to their military experiences. Were they leaders in the military? Were they squadron leaders? Can we translate that squadron leader skill set into a shift leader? They're good with working with people. They're good with working with deadlines. Why is that not a common similarity between the two? And you're not alone. We know that it's a little bit intimidating to try and do all the homework by yourself to translate the military structure into the civilian life. These are two groups that we use at Styles to hire and train and onboard military veterans, Orion Talent and Recruit Military. These guys help us tremendously because they help us make that translation between the skill set of a person coming from the military to the business world. But one thing that we have done is we've changed the way that we look to hire. You hire for attitude and personality, not just your talent. I actually hired a military maintenance leader out of the Marines to be one of my instructors. No woodworking no woodworking experience prior, no CNC experience prior, and he's one of our best instructors at this point because he had that good attitude, that good personality, and was able to onboard and train himself to learn. Secondly, look outside your area. Majority of these individuals have been traveling nonstop for their military career. They might be looking to offload from California back to Michigan, where I am. Look for people outside that are willing to relocate and bring them back into your area. And then lastly, develop strategies to retain these individuals. Maybe develop a military group within your company. If you have military veterans already that have been with your company for a few years, make them a leader, right? Allow them to have this group of individuals that they can use as a resource. It's not easy to make that transition, right? There's certain things that happen in business that don't happen within the military world. If they have a resource or a resource group, that's a great tool for them to use and a great retention tool for you when it comes to hiring these veterans. So let's talk about my favorite part, which is the education. I want to start with just going over a few stats real quick. The average length of a career has grown. It's stretched. People aren't retiring at 50, 60 years anymore. They're working 60 and 70 years in a career. But that being said, our average tenure is actually shrinking. Shrank over the last 10 years from 7 years down to 4.5 years. And then our half-life of a learned skill, which means how fast that skill fades away, that has shrunk as well down to 5 years. So a technology or a skill set that I learned today could be irrelevant in 5 years. And if you think about it, look how much has changed over the past 5 years when it comes to smartphones or tablets or tools or power tools or machines or whatever. The skill set or half-life of the skill set is shrinking, and it will continue to shrink because of the rapid technology improvement pace. So what can you do to prevent this? Cross-train. Make sure you're cross-training your people. This is a model that we use at Styles for our technicians, but it's also a model that I use when I work with customers to develop learning paths for their employees. And what this is a progression path or a growth path for an employee. So we hire an employee as a floor sweeper, right? Could be one of those apprentices or interns that you bring in 6 months to a year on the job with a bit of part-time training at the assemble station in order to advance. So we're cross-training the floor sweeper how to work at the assemble station. The assemble station individual, 1 to 2 years on the job with part-time training on the 5-axis machine. As you'll see, the pay from a floor sweeper increased to an assemble station, but you're getting cross-training in there. So you're getting value out of both individuals. And you'll see where I'm going with this. The next step is the 5-axis operator. So 3 to 5 years on the job with part-time training on project management. So now they're working with your management team or your sales team, not only on how to run the machine, but how these projects are actually working. You're going to pay this person a little bit more because of their skill set they're developing. But let's say this. Let's say the 5-axis operator drops out. They leave your company. What do? Majority of us would panic, right? We don't have the structure put in place. We would panic. There's no cross-training that's happened. We have to grab someone and train them instantly. Well, what if we did this? What if we moved the person that's working at the assembly station up to the 5-axis machine, move the floor sweeper up to the assembly station, and hire a new floor sweeper? We've saved money doing that because it's a lot cheaper to hire someone to sweep your floors than it is to hire a brand new 5-axis operator. If we cross-train, we close that skill gap and we don't panic and we don't have as much downtime as what the national average was that I showed you earlier. The next thing, reward advancements. And I'm not talking just financially, reward with titles, right? This is one of our customers out in the Northeast. And this individual, the guy on the left, was frustrated because he didn't have a title. He would walk through the office and see accountant or marketing or sales, and he ran their beam saw. So he went into his boss's office, the guy in the button-up shirt, and said, "Hey, what do I do here?" And he said, "What do you mean, what do you do here?" He said, "What do I do?" You cut our boards. He goes, "No, I set your pace for production. I'm your pace setter." Pulled out a list, had a bunch of writing on how many boards he did the prior day, the day after, so forth and so on. He says, if I don't operate efficiently, you don't make as many products. So by replacing his title, as you see on the name tag, it says pace setter. He put responsibility and ownership into that position. So think about the job titles that you're giving people as you grow them through your company, and tie those job titles into responsibility and ownership of their position to let them know how they fit into your business. Now, with the education side, once again, you're not alone. There is industry support within here. You guys are doing this already, but Participating in your industry association gives you additional resources like Styles, the Mill or Woodwork Career Alliance to help you. Develop a training plan for all of your employees, not just your new ones. We tend to invest the majority of our money, our training funds, if you will, into our new employees because of that growth, that initial growth pattern that they have to have. But using the method that I showed you earlier by cross-training, continuing to develop all employees will save you money in the long haul because you can just shift that career path down and hire at the least skilled position. And then lastly, correlate the training with professional growth. Make people hungry. Make people want to continue to grow. It doesn't have to be a substantial amount of money, but if you compliment them for completing their trainings by compensating them, I guarantee you will see more retention in your businesses because of it. The last concept that I wanted to show and talk about was empowerment. So we've talked about identity and how we find and make ourselves attractive as an employer. We've talked about where to find people and what type of people. We've talked about the training paths. Now we need to talk about empowerment. If I were to guess, 40% of you are probably getting ready to retire in the next 10 years. Well, when you retire, do you have that succession plan lined up? Do you have that person that was the project manager that you're going to bring into your position, or your vice president that's going to move into the president position? And if you do, are you empowering them? Let's face it, we all don't have enough time in the day. We need to delegate responsibility. By cross-training and delegating responsibility, we start to grow our people. We start to elongate those careers that we talked about. And when we start to empower people, we have a happier workforce. We create natural leaders. And with natural leaders, it improves business because not everyone's coming to you for answers to questions. They're going to the responsible delegated leader of their function. So let's do a quick recap. So we talked about identity, making sure that you're putting not only your best foot forward when people enter your business, but also your social presence and online. We talked about quality of person. Are we hiring and looking for the right type of people in the right places? Or are we hiring the guy that used to work at Jimmy John's with a bad attitude? Education, the constant need for education, and not just for our new employees, but for all employees. Remember, cross-training will save you money in the long run. And last but not least is that empowerment element. Empowering our employees to make decisions and become leaders will give you more time in the day, which means that you can spend more time growing your business. And like that shampoo bottle says, rinse and repeat. This is not a one-stop shop. You don't just do this process and you're done. This needs to be implemented into your daily, weekly, monthly, annually processes to make sure that you're keeping your employees. Now, I'll leave you guys with some final thoughts. I know I'm running a little bit over on time. A lot of you are probably saying, well, what happens if we invest in the training and they leave? I'll rebuttal that with what happens if we don't invest and they stay. Think of those catastrophes. And with that being said, I'd like to thank you for your time and open it up to any questions or anything like that.
Thank you, Thomas. That was great. A lot of good information. Can you, because training is so important, and I've heard from our members that they have found the right person with the right attitude, but they're from a different industry other than the wood industry, and they want to spend some money on training them. Can you talk a little bit about how they can find information about Styles University offerings and like how often that happens and that kind of information?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Amy said when she was first introducing me, I have a full dedicated team ready to train employees. So we have 6 instructors, full-time instructors. They're not technicians on the side. They're not salespeople on the side. They are dedicated instructors. I have 2 instructional designers that constantly develop material, and then an admin. We put classes on weekly. We usually have 3 to 4 classes a week, depending on what the demand is and what the machine is. We do put on more CNC edge related classes, but we have molder grinder classes, saw classes, you name it. All that information can be found on our website, which is www.stylesuniversity.com. There is a list of all of our courses, and then descriptions for who should be attending these courses. You can register directly online or email us at classes@stylesmachinery.com, and we'd be happy to set you up with either a regularly scheduled class or even potentially coming on site to your facility and figuring out if we can help you that way.
Great. There's a question from Tim with Kendrick. He says he agrees with the idea of hiring into more entry positions and training up. But what if they currently have people in those entry jobs and they're terrific, but they're not necessarily interested in moving up?
So then you need to look at that middle position, right? You might have to pay a little bit more for the assembly position, as I talked about, or the CNC. Whether hiring at the beginning stage or the middle stage doesn't matter necessarily. You're going to end up paying more for that person, for that more advanced job. The idea is that you have that scale set up, because if that person were to leave in that middle position or the up position, you can then move those people up. If you don't have the demand or the drive to move people up, it does create a little bit of an issue, and you have to start hiring onesie twosies. I would flip that to you, Tim, and say, how do you hire people that want to move up? How do you hire people with a drive to want more? So by asking questions such as, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What do you want to do? How do you want to continue to grow as an employee? During that verification or the hiring process will help you pick those right people out when you're hiring for those entry-level positions.
Great. Good. Okay, well, I'm going to end this session and we'll be put back into the lounge where you will see tables. You've all been sent your table schedule. So if you can be seated at your table, we'll go about 10 minutes. We'll send a message to the moderators at that table to let them know that we're going to wrap up, and then we'll move again. It looks like not everybody was able to join that had registered, so we might be able to go a little bit faster. But go ahead and take a seat at your table and start having some discussions about workforce or anything else that is important to you right now. And we'll join back here toward the end. Thanks.